In the brutal world of 19th-century Brazil, the legend of one man stands as a testament to the absolute depths of slavery. His name was Roque José Florencio, but he was known as Pata Seca. The stories say he stood over 7 feet tall and was forced to become a breeding slave, fathering more than 200 children. While much of his life is shrouded in oral tradition and legend rather than documented fact, his story offers a horrifying look into a system where human beings were treated like livestock. This isn't just about the cruelty of forced labor, it's about a grotesque practice of forced reproduction, designed to create a new generation of enslaved people. It's the story of a man whose physical traits made him a prisoner in a unique kind of hell, and whose legacy, a mix of trauma, survival, and incredible defiance, is essential to remember. To understand the story of Pata Seca, you first have to understand the world that created him. For over 350 years, Brazil's economy ran on the backs of the enslaved. The country was the single largest importer of captured Africans during the transatlantic slave trade. Roughly 40% of the more than 10 million Africans torn from their homes and forced onto ships were sent to Brazil. They were the fuel for a massive economic machine, working the vast sugar and coffee plantations that created enormous wealth for Portugal and a powerful class of landowners. Life on these plantations was a nightmare. From sunrise to sunset, men, women, and children were forced into back-breaking labor under the scorching sun. They were legally considered property, no different from cattle or farm equipment. They could be bought, sold, and tortured without consequence. Families were systematically ripped apart, with children often taken from their mothers and sold to distant plantations, never to be seen again. But things began to change in the 19th century as international pressure to abolish the slave trade mounted. After Britain and the U.S. banned the importation of enslaved Africans, the British Navy started patrolling the Atlantic. For Brazilian plantation owners, this was a business crisis. Their entire model relied on a steady supply of new captives to replace those who died from exhaustion, malnutrition, and disease. With the supply from Africa being choked off, they turned to an even more sinister method to sustain their workforce, the domestic reproduction of enslaved people. While the scale and organization of systematic breeding farms is debated by historians, the horrific practice of forced reproduction became a cold, calculated solution. It was a system where human beings were treated as a renewable resource, and it was this system that would define the life of Roque José Florencio. The story of Roque José Florencio, or Pata Seca, is a powerful local legend, though verifiable historical records about his early life are scarce. Oral traditions, passed down through generations, say he was born in Angola around 1828, kidnapped as a child, and forced to endure the horrific Middle Passage to Brazil. He was eventually purchased by a wealthy plantation owner, Visconde de Cunha Bueno, who gave Roque his Portuguese name. From a young age, Roque was clearly different. Legend holds that he grew to an incredible height of over 7 feet, or nearly 2.2 meters, and possessed immense physical strength. But his enslaver didn't see a remarkable man, he saw valuable genetic stock. Among the other enslaved people, Roque was given the nickname Pata Seca, which means dry paw or dry leg. Some say it was a reference to his long, thin legs, others claim it was just a common practice on the farm to give people animal-related names. In the twisted logic of forced reproduction, Pata Seca was seen as the perfect candidate. There was a myth among some enslavers that tall, strong men were more likely to produce male children, who were considered more valuable for field labor. According to the legend, Pata Seca's body was seen as a tool for manufacturing the next generation of property. He was reportedly spared the brutal labor of the coffee fields, a privilege that was really just the start of a different nightmare. He was given lighter tasks, fed well, and kept healthy, not out of kindness, but for the same reason a farmer looks after a prize bull. His body was being prepared for its grim purpose, to become a reproducer, or breeding slave. The reality of Pata Seca's role, as told through oral history, was a systematic horror. He was forced into sexual encounters with countless enslaved women who were selected by the plantation owner. These were not relationships, they were acts of institutionalized sexual violence. Pata Seca had no choice, and neither did the women. Both were stripped of their autonomy, their very existence reduced to a biological function for the profit of their enslaver. Every child born from these forced unions was born into slavery, their fate sealed from birth. They weren't seen as Pata Seca's children or as part of a family, they were simply more assets in a ledger. The psychological toll is almost impossible to imagine. For Pata Seca, it meant a life without genuine love or the right to form his own family. To say he had a better life than field slaves ignores the deep psychological trauma of being treated as a human stud. For the enslaved women, the trauma was just as profound. They were used as reproductive vessels, forced to bear children who would be born into the same chains that held them. Often, those children were torn away at a young age and sold off, destroying the most fundamental human bond. This practice of forced breeding was the ultimate expression of slavery's power to turn human life into a commodity. It twisted the act of creation into an act of production, and Pata Seca and the women he was forced upon were caught in its terrible machine. Even while trapped in this dehumanizing role, the legend of Pata Seca insists that his spirit was never broken. The stories passed down by his descendants paint a picture not just of a victim, but of a resistor. While there is no historical documentation to prove these specific acts, oral traditions hold that Pata Seca secretly fought back against the system that imprisoned him. According to these accounts, he became a leader within the enslaved community. He allegedly used his unique position to help organize slave revolts and rebellions, incredibly dangerous acts of defiance. More than that, the stories claim he worked to preserve the culture that the slave system tried to erase. He is said to have taught some of his many children about their African heritage and gave them skills to survive and fight back. By doing this, he would have been planting the seeds of resistance in the next generation, inspiring others to continue the fight for freedom. This image of a man who was both used by the system and actively undermining it paints a more complex and human picture than that of a simple victim. It shows a man who, against all odds, chose to be a leader. Pata Seca lived an incredibly long life, enduring decades of slavery. But, as the story goes, he also lived to see its end. In 1888, Brazil finally became the last nation in the Western Hemisphere to abolish slavery. Pata Seca would have been around 60 years old, and for the first time, he was a free man. After emancipation, he tried to build the life he had been denied for so long. He married a woman named Palmira, and together they had 9 children in freedom. For the first time, he could be a father on his own terms. Some accounts say that his former enslaver, the Visconde de Cunha Bueno, gave him a plot of land for his service. But freedom didn't automatically erase the hardships. Like millions of other newly freed people, Pata Seca struggled financially. Without the resources to properly fence his property, he lost much of it over time to more powerful farmers. He worked tirelessly, farming his small plot and producing a type of unrefined cane sugar to sell. His story comes to a remarkable, if hard to verify, close in the mid-20th century. Legend claims that he lived to be 130 years old, passing away in 1958. This extraordinary age is not supported by historical records, but the legend itself highlights his incredible endurance. Just months before his death, he was reportedly honored in a parade in the city of São Carlos as its oldest resident. Today, his legacy lives on through his many descendants, who are said to make up a significant portion of the population in the district of Santa Eudoxia, São Carlos, a living testament to his long and complicated life. The story of Roque José Florencio, Pata Seca, whether fact or legend, is a powerful and disturbing tale that shouldn't be forgotten. It's a stark reminder of the systematic dehumanization at the heart of slavery. His experience as a breeding slave exposes the commodification of human life in its most extreme form. And yet, his story is also one of resilience. He was a man who, according to legend, endured the unimaginable, resisted his oppressors, and ultimately lived to build a life of freedom. Remembering Pata Seca is about more than just a dark past, it's about understanding the deep and lasting wounds of slavery and honoring the incredible strength of those who survived it. What are your thoughts on this chapter of history? Did you know about the oral tradition surrounding figures like Pata Seca? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this story important, please hit the like button and subscribe for more explorations of history. Thanks for watching.